News Sunday. Here's Forrest Sawyer.
Good evening. U.S. troops are racing against time to build the first safe haven settlement for Kurdish refugees in northern Iraq. Iraqi troops have withdrawn from the area, but many of the refugees are still afraid to return home to the town of Zakho, 17 miles inside the border. And while they wait in the mountains of Turkey, conditions are only growing worse. Bob Jameson reports on the often violent struggle for food.
As a handful of soldiers started back up the mountain, word quickly spread that these were not Turkish, but Americans, and a celebration began. The Special Forces troops, after only a month at home following the Gulf War, were seen as saviors again. The platoon marched into the camp led by First Sergeant Buster Bittman, whose job is to bring order, food, and sanitation to the 90,000 people here. The arrival of the Americans begins a new chapter in the 3.5-week-old life of this camp, but it does not necessarily mean that it will be an easy one. It was a fact reinforced to the crowd that followed the 14 Americans everywhere.
We are only soldiers. We don't know what the future will hold for you or for us. We have come to help you, and we will do the best we can.
Captain Damon then added something everyone in this crowd understood.
Inshallah.
That is Arabic for God willing. Bob Jameson, ABC News, on the Turkish-Iraqi border.
Some 1,400 U.S. Marines have arrived to set up that first refugee camp near the Iraqi town of Zakho. Blue and white tents provided by the U.S. Agency for International Development have been erected, with many more on the way. The Marines were surprised to find 200 armed Iraqi police in the town, but they left quietly and without incident. Secretary of State Baker's uphill campaign for a Middle East peace agreement has moved on to Saudi Arabia after stops in Jordan, Israel, and Egypt, but without gaining much momentum. Saudi Arabia has already said it will not participate in a proposed peace conference, and there is considerable grumbling inside the Israeli government. We have two reports, beginning with Dean Reynolds.
The Israeli cabinet tried to hide a growing feeling of bitterness today over what is seen here as mounting U.S. pressure for compromise. One official called it psychological warfare, with the U.S. pushing the Jewish state into a corner without doing the same to the Arabs. Sources say Secretary Baker, who is expected here Tuesday night, wants Israel to agree to a regional conference with an international flavor, one that would give a role to Europe or the UN in addition to the superpowers. Israelis want more narrow, bilateral talks with the Arabs. The bigger the conference, say Israelis, the greater the coercive potential. And sources say Baker will be disappointed if he expects Israel to negotiate with Palestinians from Jerusalem. But the concern here is that Israel will now look like the obstacle. So officials are doing their best to avoid talk of a showdown.
I don't think that the nature of this exchange that is taking place between us and the Americans is based on putting questions and giving specific answers.
But Baker is asking for answers, and other Israeli ministers are threatening to leave the coalition and bring down the government if Prime Minister Shamir weakens in his resolve. The Israeli strategy is to keep talking and play for time, in the hopes that Secretary Baker can extract some concession from the Arabs. But most here acknowledge that for Israel, the time for maneuvering may well be running out. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
This is John McWethy with Secretary Baker. Knowing that he is now at a critical point in trying to pull together a peace conference, Secretary Baker in Egypt this morning tried to give Israel some breathing room before he demands answers to questions that could make or break the peace process.
We understand that it takes some time to consider the suggestions that we've made.
Still, by Tuesday, when he is expected to return to Israel, aides say he will want answers. After a meeting this morning with Egypt's President Mubarak, Baker got his first public commitment that at least one country will show up at a peace conference.
We have no problem in attending this conference to move towards achieving a just peace in the area.
Of course, Egypt already has a peace treaty with Israel. Baker is now in Saudi Arabia. After the Gulf War, it had been hoped that the Saudis would be among the first to say that they would be willing to sit down with Israel at a peace conference. Now it is clear they will not, but Baker claims the Saudis still have a role to play. What that apparently means is the Bush administration is counting on the Saudis to pressure the hardline leader of Syria, Hafez al-Assad, to join in the peace process. The Saudis are now bankrolling Syria, but it is far from clear how far the Saudis will push if it means that Syria must make concessions to Israel, a country that has always been regarded as the common enemy. John McWethy, ABC News, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Some good news to report tonight. General Norman Schwarzkopf came home today. His family was there to greet him, along with a few hundred other people who came by to say thank you. Linda Patillo is in Tampa, Florida.
The commander who won the most lopsided victory in modern warfare came home today to his wife, 3 children, and the family dog.
Okay, he's got my purse.
The event was low-key at the general's request. People were urged to stay home, but many came anyway.
It's a great day to be a husband. It's a great day to be a father. It's a great day to be a brother. It's a great day to be a master of a great old dog. It's a great day to be a soldier, and it's a great day to be an American. Thank you very much.
Forever the Soldiers General, Schwarzkopf asked the crowd to remember the more than 200,000 U.S. troops still in the Persian Gulf. He will continue to command them from his base in Florida until he retires this fall. In the meantime, he has received lucrative offers for everything from his memoirs to TV movies. Both political parties would like to cash in on Schwarzkopf's popularity. He is already being courted by Florida Republicans to run for the U.S. Senate in 1992.
He's a leader. When he speaks, you listen to him.
I think he's 5-star material, and I'll sign any petition for that one.
As a military band played the national anthem, Schwarzkopf struggled to hold back tears. He may be a 4-star general, but like any soldier, he was glad to be home. Linda Patillo, ABC News, Tampa.
Coming up, Medicare coverage, now taking cost into account. Washington's new focus on problems at home. And later in the broadcast, the slow death of one of the world's most precious resources.